Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Amanda, and as you can tell by the title, this is going to be 20 of my favorites and most disappointing reads of 2020. So I have a mismatch of some books that I absolutely loved and some books that were just completely disappointing. I think I have 14 books that I loved that I'm going to talk about, and I have 6 books that were just disappointing for me. And some of the books I own and they're on these shelves behind me, but I'm too lazy to get up and pick them up to hold them in front of the camera for you guys, so I'm just gonna insert pictures. And I know editing me is gonna hate myself for that, but you know what? We're just gonna go with it. Alright, so these are in no particular order. I think I'm gonna start with the most disappointing books, go through those. And I will preface this by saying, for both things, but the favorite books, they're not necessarily all 5-star reads for me, and the most disappointing books aren't all like 1 or 2-star reads for me. They're just books that didn't meet my expectations, or books that I just thoroughly enjoyed and cannot stop thinking about. I mean, I do have some 5-star reads on here, of course, but they're not all 5-star reads, so I don't want you guys to go back and look at my Goodreads and be like, you only give this book like 3 stars or 4 stars in one of your favorites. Well, that's just how it works. So the first book that I want to talk about disappointing reads is The Night Swim by Megan Golden. I was so looking forward to this book. I heard amazing things about it. It's about this true crime podcaster named Rachel who travels to this seaside town in North Carolina to pretty much live broadcast this rape case that's happening in this town. The book goes back and forth between like the case that's happening and like Rachel's podcast. Like you get like the transcript of her podcast, I suppose. And that to me was just so off-putting. I listen to true crime podcasts, or, you know, I love podcasts. And I just felt like those parts in the book were very boring. I feel like they were just streams of consciousness, and it just didn't work for me. I know a lot of people love this book. Unfortunately, I didn't. The next book that I want to talk about is One by One by Ruth Ware. This one was quite disappointing for me as well. Don't get me wrong, I love Ruth Ware. I will continue to buy anything and read anything that she writes. My favorite book by her, you guys know, is The Death of Mrs. Westaway. That still holds the #1 spot for me. One by One, I felt like it was glaringly obvious from page 1 what was happening. Maybe not page 1, but very early on in the book I had figured it out, which maybe it was meant to be figured out that quickly, but it was to the point where I was like, this is so obvious that there's no way that this is what it is, right? Like that's what she wants us to think, like, and no, it's not that at all. So it just didn't work for me. I wanted more of the survival ness. Like, if you guys didn't know, this follows a group of people that work for this like startup tech company, kind of like Spotify, but you can like listen to people's playlists with them. So they go on this retreat in the French Alps at this expensive ski chalet, and this avalanche comes and traps them there, and then people start dying, and you're trying to figure out who did what and why and what's the motive and all of that. And I didn't connect with the characters. I wanted more of them like going out and trying to survive this avalanche. I mean, they were stuck in there and they were rationing food and like that, but then I wanted them like out in the wilderness like doing it. And I got some of that towards the end, so it did redeem itself a little bit, but not enough to love it. The next book I want to talk about is The Last Flight by Julie Clark. I had high hopes for this one. This is about 2 women who switch flights at an airport and pretty much like take over one another's lives, I guess. I don't really remember a lot about it. It was pretty forgettable. Left a lot to be desired, and I really honestly don't remember a lot. I just know that I expected more out of it, had a really great premise, and it just kind of fell flat. And I want to talk about Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson. I should have loved this book. It's YA fantasy. It's about a girl who is able to talk. She like works with grimoires that talk and like have magic in them, so they can like move around, and like there's evil grimoires and the whole nine, and like she is one of the keepers of this library that holds all of these grimoires. And nope, I didn't like it. There was one character that I really liked. I think his name's Silas, and he was like I don't even know what he was, a wraith maybe, and I really liked him a lot. But other than that, no, I didn't like it. which is disappointing because I thought I would. It has like all of the elements that I think I would, and a lot of people love that book. I just, for whatever reason, it just didn't work for me, unfortunately. The next book I have on my list is Winterwood by Shay Earnshaw. You guys know that The Wicked Deep, you guys can kind of see it back there. One of my favorite books. This one just didn't work. I will tell you that Shay Earnshaw knows how to write an atmospheric story. My God, like that book was absolutely atmospheric, but I figured it out pretty quick, and it just didn't hold my attention. I had to slug through it. I felt like there wasn't enough of a plot, but I love the atmosphere. I like the writing, and I will continue to read Shay Earnshaw's books in the future. This one, again, just didn't work. And then the last disappointing book of 2020 that I want to talk to you guys about is On the Rocks by Candy Steiner. Love Letter to Whiskey is one of my favorite books ever, and that's by Candy Steiner. And so when I saw this series, I thought, oh my gosh, this is going to be great. It's set in a small town. It follows these brothers who work for this local distillery. It's like a pretty infamous distillery, whiskey distillery, and our main character like has this crush that he's had on the mayor's daughter, who is much younger than him, for a very long time, and they start this romance even though she is engaged. And I just didn't like it. I mean, there's more books in the series. I can get them on Kindle Unlimited if I'm interested. Maybe I'll like another one of the brothers' stories. I just didn't like the brother in this one very much. He annoyed me a little bit. He did have some cinnamon roll like moments, but for the most part it wasn't what I was expecting. I wanted more of like Love Letter to Whiskey, and this was not that. And you know, she has a lot of books, so I'm sure that I might like other ones from her, but this one just did not work. Okay, so let's talk about the books that I loved in 2020, because I just want to gush about some things. Alright, so this one's like fresh in my mind. I literally just finished it 2 days ago, and that is The Black Flamingo by Dean Atta. This book is fantastic, and if you have not picked it up, please do so. This is about a gay man of color who, it's written in verse, and it's just him navigating life, trying to find himself, trying to figure out where he fits in because he feels like he doesn't fit in. His mother is Greek and white, and his father is Jamaican, and his father doesn't have a relationship with him. He does have a pretty good relationship with his aunt, uncle, and grandmother on that side. And yeah, I mean, he very early on, you can see that he is trying to figure out who he is. He ends up going off to college. He joins this drag society and like takes on this whole like drag persona, and it's just like him. It's like a coming of age story, but for a gay man, a black gay man. And I don't know, like, it's beautiful. I will tell you, like, there are some poems in there that he wrote, and I'm not a poetry person, so those kind of like went over my head a little bit, but the like story itself was just so powerful. It packed such a punch, and it was really, really good. Really well done. I really liked it. And I will definitely be picking up more of Dean Atta's books in the future. Something else I loved this year was The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones. This is a horror novel. I gave both of those actually. I gave The Black Flamingo 5 stars. I gave The Only Good Indians 5 stars as well. Fantastic novel. Fantastic. I will definitely be picking up more of Stephen Graham Jones in the future. Actually, all of these authors I will be, but he has some backlist titles that I'm definitely interested in. The Mongrels, I think. Night of the Mannequins is a short story of his. Loved it. This follows a group of friends who 10 years prior had hunted on some land in the reservation that they weren't allowed to hunt on, and 10 years later these things start happening, and there is this like entity essentially that is after them. It's terrifying. It is terrifying. Wow. It's terrifying. There's some social commentary in there that is great, and I've never read anything like it before. I just really, really, really liked it. I want to talk to you guys about Cemetery Boys by Aiden Thomas. This was one of my most anticipated reads of the year, and it did not disappoint. Aiden is amazing. Their book is amazing. I loved it so much. It follows a trans main character named Yadriel, who is love, 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 love. Him and his cousin are off on this hunt to try to find the ghost of his cousin Miguel, who they believe has been murdered, but they haven't been able to find his ghost to set him free. It's almost Halloween, so Day of the Dead is like right around the corner, and they need to like sever him from his body before he becomes evil. Yadriel has not come into his brujo powers yet because his family won't allow him to do the ceremony, because they said that it's going against tradition. And he decides that he's going to do it himself. This happens at the very beginning of the book, and he ends up summoning someone that he didn't expect to, and the three of them go on this epic adventure to try to find Miguel, and it's so good. I cannot wait to read more from Aiden Thomas. I also want to talk about Catherine House by Elizabeth Thomas. This book was so weird, but so good. Loved it, and I will definitely be picking up more of this author's books in the future. It follows a girl who ends up at this like prestigious college that you have to get accepted into. Once you get there, you're on this accelerated program for 3 years. You're not allowed to leave. You're not allowed to be in contact with the outside world, and these weird fucking things start happening. There's not much of a plot. It's very weird. It's gonna have a very specific audience, but apparently the weirder the better. I don't know. It just worked. It worked really well, and I just wanted more of it when it ended, and I was very sad. So yeah, loved that one. Next thing I have on my list is Nevermoor by Jessica Townsend. This is the first book in the Trials of Morgan Crow. This is middle grade. It follows Morgan Crow, who the gifted kids in this world, when they turn 11, I believe they die. Like these wolf shadows come and eat them, and they die because I don't know, these people are afraid of them and their powers, and they think they're cursed. But that's not what happens to our main character, obviously. She is picked up by Jupiter, I think is his name, and he takes her to this magical land, and then adventures ensue there. Very good. Highly recommend. I mean, what's not to love? And then I have Get a Life Chloe Brown on here. This is by Talia Hibbert. Loved it. This is about a girl named Chloe who has a illness. She has like she has a debilitating illness that keeps her from doing stuff. She has this near-death experience, and she decides she needs to write down this list of things that she wants to do before she dies. And so she starts working on that list, and in the meantime she starts a romance with a very unlikely suspect and it's super cute, and really loved it. It is steamy. I will warn you, there is some steamy scenes in there, but really good. Can't wait to read the second one in that series. Then I want to talk to you guys about The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. This is amazing thriller. I don't know why I waited so long to read it. I thought I had it all figured out, and then bam, I didn't, and whew, it was so good. So good. I cannot wait. I think this author has another book coming out in 2021. I will definitely be picking that one up. And then we have A Trail of Lightning by Rebecca Roanhorse. This is an urban fantasy. It was on my most anticipated releases of last year, and I didn't read it until this year, and I'm sad that I waited because it was really good. It took me a little while to get into, but I think urban fantasy always kind of does. It takes me a while to wrap my brain around like present day world with magical elements. I don't know why, it just does. This follows a girl named Maggie who is living in a post-apocalyptic America, essentially. She is a monster hunter, so she is Native American, and she hunts monsters that now roam the lands, and she has like this relationship with one of the gods, and it goes kind of sour, and then she meets a guy named Kai who is like a medicine man. He's like a healer, and they go on this adventure to try to find this certain monster that is terrorizing their town, city, state, I don't know, their area. And yeah, it's action-packed, it's fast-paced. Maggie is extremely strong female lead, and I really love her a lot. And I definitely need to read the next in the series soon. And then I have something that was quite surprising for me. I finally picked up A Curse So Dark and Lonely by Bridget Kimmerer. This is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, loose retelling. Our main character has cerebral palsy, I think. My God, I hope that's what she has, because if not, I'll feel like an asshole. She has a disability, but it doesn't stop her from doing anything. She's amazing. I read this book in just a couple of days, and it's a chunker of a book. I love retellings to begin with. I don't know why I waited so long to pick it up, but it's really good. So much so that I have the second book on my shelves, and I've pre-ordered the third book, which comes out in January. Now, I've heard that the second one does suffer from second book syndrome, but I'm hoping that I like it enough, and then when I read the third one, it'll tie everything up and it'll be great. What can I tell you about it? This girl ends up, like, her and her brother are trying to make ends meet. Her mother is very sick with cancer, and so they're like pulling off, they're conning people out of money. I believe that's what's happening. And she gets taken by this knight to this other world, and it's like a kingdom, to meet the beast, right? And she's trying to get back home, but she has no idea how to do that. Her cell phone obviously doesn't work in this world, and she gets, because she wants to go home, she's gotten herself into a lot of shenanigans, constantly getting herself into these shenanigans, and it's just really good. I like the relationships between not only like the knight, I can't remember anyone's names off the top of my head right now, it's been a while, but the knight and the king himself, and it's just quick, like fast-paced read, and really good. If you like retellings, then you should definitely pick it up. And then I have the AI Who Loved Me by Alyssa Cole. This was like a short novella that I actually read from Audible or listened to, and I loved it. It was so cute, super quick, and I will read anything that Alyssa Cole writes. So then I have Little Women on here by Louisa May Alcott. I finally read this one this year. It was just so like heartwarming, very heartwarming, classic. I think it aged quite well considering, and yeah, I'm really glad I read it. Then I have The Broken Girls by Simone St. James. This is a thriller, I guess, but it like mashes history and suspense and like thriller all in one. It's so good. So this is about a girl who has lost her sister like 10 years prior to a murder. Her murderer has been convicted. It was her boyfriend. He's been convicted and tried, and he's in jail, and like everything's been wrapped up, but her sister just believes there's something else going on, and she can't let it go. So she's like constantly searching, trying to figure out what's going on. She's a journalist, and they found her sister's body on the this old school for girls that has since been closed, but her sister just doesn't understand why she would have been there. She doesn't believe the boyfriend did it. There's some like paranormal elements here. Very good. The next book I have is Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno Garcia. This is the first one that I've read by this author, even though I have many of her books. So good. It's a gothic horror. It's not super scary, like there's not a lot of horror elements. There are some grotesque elements. It's about this girl, it's based in the 20s in Mexico. It's about this girl who her dad gets a letter from her cousin saying like, hey, I'm here and I need help. I need someone to come and help me. Her cousin's gotten married to a white man, and he's moved her like very far away from her family. So the father, who thinks there's something wrong, sends his daughter to go and find out what's happening. When she gets there, things are not what they seem. There's some weird things happening in this house. There's a lot of social commentary in this book about racism, eugenics, etc. Really loved that one. So good. I know that people liked it until it got to a certain point, and then they just couldn't, it defied logic to them, and they just couldn't get on board. But I was not one of those people. I loved it. And then the final book I want to talk about is another Silvia Moreno Garcia book, and that's Gods of Jade and Shadow. This book is completely different than Mexican Gothic. It follows a girl in Mexico who ends up going on this quest with the god of death, and she has to help him find the pieces of himself before time runs out, or else she will die. So they go on this epic adventure, and it is fantastic, quite entertaining. I read that book, I read almost the entire book in one sitting, so it didn't take me long to get through it. Really loved it, and because of that now Silvia Moreno Garcia is an auto-buy author for me. I will read anything that she writes. I actually have The Beautiful Ones and Certain Dark Things on my shelf, which are some of her backlist titles, which I believe just were re-released recently, and yeah, really excited. Also, Mexican Gothic is being adapted, I think, for a TV show or a movie, I'm not sure, so I'm excited to see what they do with that. Those are all of the things that I loved and some things that were disappointing this year. Go ahead and let me know down below some things that you loved or some things that you didn't love, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Follow me on Goodreads, Twitter, and Instagram, and I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.